United States government will shut down when the clock ticks from midnight to 12:01 a.m. overnight tonight, unless President Trump and leaders on Capitol Hill can reach an 11th-hour agreement. Trump and the top 4 leaders in Congress met privately yesterday but failed to reach a compromise. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer say they reiterated their focus on advancing health care policy goals.
Democrats are fighting to protect the health care of the American people, and we are not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of everyday Americans.
And when we talked to him about the other issues, he was not aware that Americans would pay, so many Americans, tens of millions of Americans would pay huge increases in their health care, bills because of the ACA expiring in December, and he was not aware that the real effect of that starts October 1st, not December 31st. So it seemed from his body language and some of the things he said that he was not aware of the ramifications of the treatise, the bad implications on health care for Americans.
Republican lawmakers, meanwhile, are blaming Democrats, with Vice President J.D. Vance predicting a shutdown.
This is purely and simply hostage-taking on behalf of the Democrats. The Republicans are united. House Republicans, Senate Republicans, President Trump. The House has passed a clean funding resolution to fund the government until November the 21st. It's clean, it is bipartisan, and it is short-term. But it gives us enough time to finish the appropriations process, which is the way we should be funding the government.
We have disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut that government down. We have disagreements about health care policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it.
So I'm easily confused, as everybody knows.
Well, no, it's...
But I'm confused. I mean, he was the guy who said that Donald Trump might be America's Hitler, and then he changed. He's a guy that said God expects more from us than to vote for Donald Trump. JD did. And then he changed. And Mika, didn't he say, like, not so long ago that this is exactly when you use your leverage to try to get the other party to change when the other party's in the White? Didn't he say, I don't know. Am I dreaming? Is this like a dream from Dallas?
Oh,
where it's the next season?
Dream.
And I don't know.
Yeah, you could be. We could take a look.
Okay, let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, man, why shouldn't we be trying to force this government shutdown fight to get something out of it that's good for the American people? Like, why have a government if it's not a functioning government?
What a shock. What a shock.
A year ago.
That's just it.
Right.
Oh, I thought that might be a decade ago, 30 years ago.
That was like a young J.D. Vance. Oh, wait, he is pretty young.
That was just last year. That was last year. Huh. Well, it's very interesting. You know, you never know what's going to happen here. You really don't. Donald Trump can decide what he wants to decide. I will say, actually, going through a government shutdown, you know, everybody on the floor would all gather. Well, you know, people will understand that Bill Clinton and would sit there. And finally, like, it occurred to me, I go, dude, nobody's paying attention to this. When the government shut down, they're going to blame Republicans. They always blame. And sure enough, the government was shut down. Bill Clinton broke us politically, got reelected. It worked in his favor. When there was a shutdown, I guess, 2011? Same thing happened. They didn't blame Barack Obama, even though Republicans were like, I'm going to blame Barack Obama. They never did. They don't do that. I know John. I've known John Thune for a long time. Love John Thune. People, like, working, like, in middle America aren't going, well, you know, they passed a clean CR. It's clean. Nobody, what? The friend goes, what? What is that?
Is that how they talk?
Connie Reeves. What does CR stand for? So that's the problem is Republicans own the White House. Republicans own the Senate. Republicans own the House.
They have a lot of power.
Republicans own the Supreme Court. People in middle America, when they see government shutdown, they go, wait a sec, we put Republicans in charge of everything, and they can't even run a government. This is not wish casting. This is like 30 years of experience. Republicans always get blamed for government shutdowns, especially when you have the monopoly of power in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, the nation is not gripped by clean CR talk. And there's a short-term memory here issue for the Republicans. And this White House, there were actually 3 government shutdowns during Trump's first term. 2 of them were very brief, but one extended 30-odd days, the longest we've ever had. All 3, particularly the long one, where Trump took the hit.
Yeah.
Like his poll numbers fell. He did. But they've convinced themselves that they can win the messaging on this one. And we see them. We heard, they're talking about
do you think
immigration.
they're doing that because Democrats were so weak last time and folded so quickly?
I think there is a sense of that, yes. They feel like there's a swagger coming from this White House. They feel like the Democrats have proven to be not up to the challenge so far this year. There's been inadequate opposition, and they feel like they can bully them into what they want. And they can use the same talking points they used during last year's election on immigration, trying to claim it's illegal migrants getting health care. We're seeing some transgender talk again. And last night, the president, after this meeting yielded nothing with Schumer and Jeffries, the president put on social media a deep fake, highly offensive video with racist discussions and fake language from Schumer and Jeffries that clearly is not thing you do if you're trying to reach across the aisle to get an 11th hour deal. Yeah. So they're dug in here. Republicans think they're going to win the messaging here around the shutdown, and barring something unforeseen, we're going that way.
Yeah, it showed that negotiation was a charade for the White House. They walked outside and tweeted or Truth Socialed an AI video that had Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer outside of the portico there.
All fake.
And it was all fake, everything they were saying. Wow. So, Allie, you've been following this closely for a long time. A lot of people have seen this slow motion train coming for months, that we were hurtling toward this shutdown. But to cut through what we heard, the partisan stuff from both sides there, what is this shutdown really about? What are they fighting over?
What they're essentially fighting over is, A, just basic keeping the government open, but B, Democrats laying out this litmus test on health care. And I think there's actually a deeper irony here, because one of the things that Democrats have laid out that they want is shoring up Affordable Care Act subsidies that are set to expire. And once they do, people's premiums are going to spike. If they were to deal with this, that would actually help Republicans and Democrats alike in the upcoming midterm elections. And so that is sort of the open and ironic secret about this. I think what Republican sources have said to me on the Hill is that it's a question of timing and when they feel comfortable doing a negotiation on those health care subsidies. But I still remain convinced that that is the off-ramp. There was also some talk yesterday among sources of mine that Schumer was trying to feel out his caucus on if they would agree to some kind of very short-term spending agreement, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, just to get them over the hump and not let the government shut down while they continue to negotiate on other things. That idea was pretty much dead in the water as soon as it started. And Schumer himself was very forceful in saying, no, I wouldn't support that kind of idea. But it does only underscore the idea that we are likely heading for a government shutdown. And I think what Republicans did yesterday, there's one thing that I think helped them, which is having that meeting. I think they ran the risk of, after Trump canceled on Democrats last week, handing Democrats the talking point of saying, well, they won't even meet with us. But then on the other hand, Speaker Mike Johnson is keeping his Republican House members at home. They're not even in Washington right now. There's some consternation that I've heard from my sources about that strategy. Some Republicans say it would be better if we were in Washington doing what Democrats are doing, which is saying we're here, we're ready to work, we want to keep the government open. But It does seem like Johnson, by doing that, is forcing their posture that they either get on board with the clean CR that the House passed or the government shuts down, which is why the government's likely going to shut down.
Well, I mean, and why is Johnson keeping him away? Well, we heard, first of all, he's keeping him away because he doesn't want to vote on Epstein, especially since a Democrat has now is waiting to be sworn in. That's number one. But number two, think about all of the Republicans that won in Joe Biden's districts, that Biden also won. And think about the impact of slashing health care like slashing, whether they get it through the Affordable Care Act, slashing it for Medicaid, which impacts their parents, which impacts their children, which impacts their families, impacts their health care. And that happening so Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and other billionaires and the richest people on earth can get massive tax cuts. Of course, you're going to keep people away from Washington, D.C. and swing districts because they want this compromise because, I don't know, they'd rather get reelected than lose.
Well, and also, think about how the Republicans have prepared the field for a government shutdown. I mean, they have, for 9 months now, since they took office in January, they've laid off a lot of people in various agencies. They've gone after, thinned out enormous numbers of people from various agencies. And David French, I'm just wondering what you think out there in the country. I mean, nobody's walking around talking about CRs and everything like that today, but they are aware that the government is getting thinner and thinner and thinner each and every day.
Well, I also think there's just a sense of here we go again. I mean, how many times are we going to walk through this? And I don't think voters sit there and parse, okay, this time it's different. This time person X and Y are responsible for it. I think there's a weariness, a resignation here is what we're dealing with for this shutdown. And also I think that a couple of these, the big beautiful bill and this, dispute are showing that I think many Republicans are not quite grasping how much their coalition is changing. Medicaid cuts were impacting a lot of this new, more working class Republican coalition. Subsidies in Obamacare, you have to ask how much will increased healthcare costs with problems with subsidies impact this new Republican working class coalition. So there are some tweaks here, some small minor tweaks, but I think the overall sensation is here we go again, but with one interesting difference. One interesting difference is this time you might have an administration who uses whatever legal wiggle room it can possibly find or not find, just raw power, and try to use the shutdown as a pretext for even more drastic cuts to government employment, more drastic changes in government agencies, using the ambiguity and the chaos surrounding this to maximum effect. And I'm not sure that everyone has thought that through quite enough yet.